Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined us for the Precious Metals and Critical Minerals Conference. Our first presentation of the day is from Metals1. Please note you may submit questions for the presenter throughout the presentation. And you can view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings by clicking Book a Meeting in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Daniel Mailing. He's the Managing Director of Metals1, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol MTOPF and on the LSE under the symbol MET1. Welcome, Daniel.
Thanks, John. Pleased to be here. Thanks once again, John, and thanks everyone for joining us today to listen to the presentation on Metals1. Like any good story, it's great to start in the beginning, and I'll do a quick potted history on where Metals1 originated and how we've gone on the journey to date, which has been a pretty rapid evolution from initially listing about 2.5 years ago as a focused nickel exploration explorer in Scandinavia, to now what we see as being a diversified early stage critical metals developer and investor, with a broad sort of mix of critical metal development projects across different jurisdictions in the globe. Screening through here, hopefully most people have seen one of these before, saying the standard information. Now, if you can see here on this slide, we've built an extensive portfolio across several critical metals bases, with a strengthening focus around uranium and gold in particular. You'll see our original listing assets were the Black Schist project and the Rana nickel project up in Scandinavia, which we've now reached to a point of a PEA around those assets and projects. Further down in Africa, we've recently invested into a gold infrastructure play through Lions Bay Capital, and also a graphite project through Evolution Energy Minerals. And topically for us with our OTC listing and speaking to the audience today, we've also stepped into some early stage uranium and gold projects in North America and Canada. And in Southern America, we have an early stage gold and copper porphyry project through Fidelity Minerals, and through Cleantech Lithium, a lithium project in Chile. So lots to get through to today, but what we've tried to do to demonstrate to investors is that we have a diversified yet focused sort of scope, really honing in on gold and uranium in the years ahead. Talking through our project investment exposure in a little bit more detail to give a feel for how the portfolio is weighted between the commodity mix and the geographies. You can see there we've initially come from a nickel and European base, and we've recently sort of diversified across the commodity mix and geographical focus sectors. Now, when we're deploying our balance sheet, it's also good to understand where the wealth and the value is sitting. We like to keep a portion in cash to support our underlying projects and our operations, but we're also investing in projects that themselves are sitting in structures that are now listed. So if we need to potentially liquidate those investments to support our operating investments and activities, we will do, but it's a good opportunity for us to be flexible and nimble in our decisions. One thing that may not be clear, given that we're a relatively small company with a market cap of around £30 million, is that with investing through Metals1, you get exposure to some quite large projects. The chart on the left here is trying to demonstrate that to you. So we look through Lions Bay Resources. We've recently put in a loan note into a structure which unlocks a power generation plant there, which can also be used for gold roasting. That has a replacement value of $40 million. Our Black Schist project in Finland, we recently did a PEA about a year ago or so, and we've realised, an implied NPV on that project alone of $42 million. In Tanzania, through our investment through Evolution Energy Minerals, we've got significant, an interest in a significant graphite project, which has an NPV put around that of over $300 million. And then even a larger scale again, through our investment with Cleantech Lithium, the underlying lithium brine project there has a expected NPV of over US $1.8 billion. Some really significant projects there that we've invested into, and hopefully we'll be able to realise some of that back through our own value in the years ahead. If we break those down into what is seen as the direct ownership in each of those projects, you're seeing there that we have a see-through implied value of over sort of US $300 million across those projects, with some cash on hand of over $7 million in cash and listed investments. So we're well positioned to support these projects as they grow in the years ahead. The team managing METals1 were headed up by Executive Chairman Craig Moulton, who's a great experience in mining projects and companies in the years past. He also sits on the board of one of our investee companies, Evolution Minerals. Alex King similarly has a technical background, a well-regarded geologist, and is based in the UK with me. And Fungo is an experienced corporate finance director, helping us with our compliance and strategy pieces. Myself, my background is also in corporate finance. I've worked around mining, natural resources and energy companies for over 20 years, probably most notably working for a mining investment house in the early 2000s, where we were able to build that up from a small base similar to METals1, and we ended up selling that out for a couple of $1 billion before we left. Our profile, we've got over 840 million shares on issue at the moment, sits us on a market cap just below £28 million. Our cash and liquid investments on hand is around £9 million. We went through quite a drastic refinancing earlier this year. The capital markets in London were tricky, especially for junior explorers, especially those focused around nickel. So we took in some financing through a warrant structure, which was dilutive at that point in time. But during that period, during a 6-month period since taking in that initial money, we've netted around £11 million. The warrants have been fully exercised. So we now have a fully diluted capital base, cash on hand, and as you can see, an expanded portfolio. Focusing in on our gold projects, and as a team, that's really been where I've directed the business development sort of activities. Following the thematics globally at the moment, everyone wants gold, but gold projects are expensive to find and manage and develop for that matter. So early on in the process, after our financing, we picked up some claims in Suárez, the Suárez gold property in Nevada, which sit right in the sweet spot of the Carlin trend, which is a very well-known gold producing trend. We hope to be out there sometime in the new year or the first half of next year, drilling on those claims, with some early indications there from some of the work. We're quite excited to get out there and into the field. Fulcrum Metals is one of our smaller investments. The guys have some really interesting technology which they're applying against one of their tailings projects. We're supportive of these young companies and these companies that are bringing technology into mining practices as well. That's part of our thesis, and that in itself has been a good investment return for us thus far. Lions Bay Capital and Lions Bay Resources are focused around a similar model to METals1 in terms of a portfolio approach, but they're more recently focused in on gold and gold in South Africa, and you'll see through this presentation and probably the weeks ahead how important that is to us and how we see that as an opportunity to get into gold projects at a reasonable entry point and leverage our balance sheet to come in and take control of some infrastructure there. And in that situation, we'll talk to it a little bit more. It's a existing power generation plant that we can actually retrofit and turn into a gold roaster, and that can unlock value in some of the gold mines nearby that plant in South Africa. Fidelity Minerals is a listed Canadian company Again, we've got a significant stake there of some 14%. They're out there chasing a known gold copper discovery. Well, we expect it's a discovery based on historical data. We're going to go back into that project area in the new year and, and hopefully interrogate the old workings and bring to the market and demonstrate that we've got a great little gold project on our hands there with Fidelity. The Swallows project, which I touched on earlier, we picked these up as direct claims with minimal entry point. We're obviously in the right postcode with some big partners around us. We've been impressed with some of the basic field work that we've undertaken and also the regional interest in this project. We're getting local prospectors and geologists that have been around that part of Nevada for a while, and we're excited to see what we do on the ground there in the new year. So we own 100% of that project. We carry those costs, but of course any returns we make, any discoveries we make, we should see full value for those. Metals, again, a small investment here, but it's about the technology aspect and the people around that technology. We like what these guys are doing. We see applications for their technology across other parts of not necessarily our portfolio, but business development opportunities that we see. So we've been happy to support them through their most recent fundraisings, and we'll do so again into the new year. Lions Bay Resources with a gold energy plant in South Africa. I went out here in September and inspected this plant and was impressed. This is on a massive industrial site not far from Newcastle. It's well accessed through an airport. It's well linked in with a local industrial partner who needs the power and needs the steam from this particular plant that we've invested into. A lot of money spent here, and unfortunately in the region you've seen some of the economic downturn in the last decade. A lot of these industrial customers have left the site, so it left this power plant unutilized, pretty much mothballed, but in really good nick. So we're excited to see what we can do with this piece of kit, and importantly for us, we see an opportunity to, as I said, develop it into a gold roasting operation. There are a lot of mines nearby to this site that have gold contained in concentrate that currently is just being shipped off to the Chinese without being upscaled, I guess, into a product where you're actually getting more decent gold recoveries and yield for it. So we're being approached by a number of the mines nearby around this facility and how we can partner together and exploit some of the opportunities there that we see in the gold mines nearby. Oh, sorry, I should also note on that one, the team and the operating team that we've partnered with in South Africa are headed up by Graham Briggs, who's previously the former CEO of Harmony Gold, major gold producers in South Africa, and Lloyd Birrell has also got great local knowledge and operating understanding. Talking or expanding on that last point, we as a team have identified over around 12 million ounces of regional gold deposits that will be suitable to put through this gold roasting plant that we're in the process of acquiring. You're seeing a lot of the smaller mining operations not having the balance sheet and the capital available for them to go and expend on these large pieces of infrastructure and actually get the yields that they need. So we're hoping to join together with some of these smaller mines and offer an alternative through tolling. The opportunity to actually come and take ownership and partner with some of the larger mining complexes is really quite exciting. Keeping an eye on my time here, I'm just going to keep flicking through things at some pace. The Fidelity Minerals mine in Peru, again, we will be out there in the new year, getting access to that site. Historically, noting these aren't 43101 compliant resources, but there's been over 6.5 million tonnes of over 2.1 grams a tonne of gold in the past, amounting to over nearly 500,000 ounces of gold and some 5.3 million ounces of silver. So if, as we expect, we confirm some of those numbers, we're in for a real exciting early stage gold project. Our lithium project is an investment through Cleantech Lithium in Chile. They are also listed in London. We are in a process there of expecting to receive some sanctioning around the project status, so that can be fast-tracked through development next year. There's obviously been some changes in government recently, which has sort of delayed that a little bit, but I believe the outcome is going to be supportive in terms of the politics around supporting this project. We see this as a strategic project for the country, an example of the sort of thing that we can have exposure to. Deploying a small piece of capital, we're able to be part of possibly the next biggest, the next big lithium project in that country. Moving through onto our uranium trend, again, we've intentionally got into areas here which have been low for us, a low carrying costs, a low entry point into them, but generally in regions where we know there's existing uranium trends at play. And in the case of some of the areas we've also been able to partner with a group called DESA, who have their own waste recovery license. So some of the waste dumps on our existing sites are suitable for their recovery technology. So they are out there now in the field going to interrogate our deposits and our waste dumps to see whether we can actually generate some uranium production from that. So that's revenue for us through a revenue sharing arrangement. It's an example of where we've invested into a uranium project, just classified as exploration for us, and we've turned it into a potential joint venture revenue generating project within sort of 6 to 12 months from the initial investment. So exciting to see what comes of that with the DESA guys over the next 6 to 12 months. Our Red Basin project in New Mexico was identified by the old geologist from Uranium, which was a very successful African uranium development company. That same geologist was asked by the founders around that group to go out into the US and come up with an area that may be suitable where they can go and do it again. This is his choice. So this land package that we've got in Red Basin, we're quite excited about the exploration potential there. We're in the process of going through the environmental checks and pre-planning for drilling, and hopefully that's something that we can report on in the new year. Earlier stage, but the prize here is huge. And again, we're backing a team that's done it before. Nickel and platinum metals projects. These, I guess, are our projects that we were listed with. We spent the first couple of years of our life and our capital towards sort of interrogating some of these opportunities. The main one is the Black Schist Nickel project, which has an existing nickel resource of some 57.1 million tonnes. That sits right beside the Tel Vivara operating nickel mine, the only operating nickel mine in Europe. And then we also have the Rana Nickel project in Norway, which is operated by Kingsrose Mining out of Australia. They're chasing some exploration anomalies on the Rana intrusion, and we see those being analogous to what's going on in Voisey's Bay. So again, 2 early stage projects, but with potentially huge scale. And in the case of the Black Schist project in Finland, we've also moved through to a PEA on that. So we've put some sort of economic assessment and feel to what that JORC resource could be. And we're expecting, well, we're hoping with a turn in the nickel price at some stage, that project will get a little bit more attention and possibly even some EU funding. I'll keep moving through the Rana Nickel project. A graphite project in Tanzania is, again, a large-scale project, could be significant for that country. Graphite as a market has got a little bit trickier the last year or two. But we're seeing this as a strategic play when that market returns. The discussions that we're having on that project around the project financing now, there's not much more money we need to spend on that. It's a matter of supporting that company through through their financing discussions. That's the summary, a run through on what's quite a large portfolio. So happy to take some questions. All right, I think this is an interesting one with around the lithium market and I guess the demand and price assumptions. Look, I think we've seen a little bit of a turn on that more recently. Lithium is going to have a role to play. I guess it's about those projects that can be in the more lower cost quartile in what they're doing. So, we see Laguna as being one of those. We also see it as the profile of that project within the country means it should be able to go through its permitting process as more smoothly, and we'll definitely have some in-country financing support around it. Okay, talking about the European Commission and the second call for critical raw material projects. Yes, we are intending to submit an application through the Critical Raw Materials Act. The guys on the ground are busy doing that now. We've got a window until January. So yes, it's tight. We still see that project being suitable for that, and we'll update the market once we put that application in and any results coming from it. Okay, the question here is, I guess, the strategy and how we've evolved from, I guess, being more of an operating mining company into seemingly a quasi-investment company. Look, the investments we've made recently have been introductory points into some of the underlying projects that we see, and it's a way for us to scope out and I guess perform more due diligence on some of these opportunities. I'd expect us to move more into that operator mode again, and possibly backing one or two of these projects that we have got a smaller stake in now. For those that we don't believe there's that opportunity to go and take more of a controlling stake and add value as Metals One, then look, we'll support those investments, and then move them on and hopefully recycle some of our investment returns into our operator projects. Okay. Are you financed for your 2026 projects? Yes, we are. We've intentionally invested into projects that have a discretionary expenditure profile around them. As we've seen in the past, success with exploration means you've got to spend more money. So we're being selective on the projects that we are investing in terms of exploration. The investee companies, there could be cash calls on our funding if those projects are successful, but at the moment we've got a decent cash pile to support all those in their future endeavours. Key milestones for 2026. I think it will be some movement through some of the exploration activities, possibly in gold in Swallows, definitely focusing in on how we can support our more recent investment into Lions Bay sort of resources and building our footprint in South Africa and the South African gold mining opportunities that we see there. I think there'll be hopefully some breakout in some of the underlying investments, such as clean tech lithium. We're also looking forward to supporting our uranium ventures. The guys at DESA are hard at it, interrogating our waste dumps there. Some uranium production will be a great thing to report back to shareholders. And look to see what's happening in the Red Basin, through that Novacore holding as well as a potential uranium block and exploration program of excitement in the new year. I think that's a good wrap up for now, and so I'd like to thank everyone for attending and putting in their questions. Hopefully, I've been able to answer most of them adequately. Stay tuned. We've been had an active period of business development and building the portfolio. Hopefully, we're bringing some new exciting projects to investors, and we're looking forward to supporting those in the new year. And Merry Christmas if I don't get to speak to any of you before then. Take care. Thank you.